Imagine looking up from Earth in the year 2100 and seeing cities orbiting overhead, glowing rings with thousands of people living, working, and even raising families in artificial gravity. A place where spacecraft dock like airplanes, where solar power is harvested directly from space, and where humanity's first off-world communities begin to grow. It sounds like science fiction, but this future actually begins with a football field-sized laboratory already orbiting above your head right now. The International Space Station. Launched piece by piece, starting in 1998, the International Space Station is the single most expensive human structure ever built. It travels at 17,500 miles per hour, orbits Earth every 90 minutes, and has hosted more than 280 astronauts from 20 countries. It was never built to look futuristic. It's a patchwork of modules and solar panels, but it proved something world-changing. Humans can live and work in space for decades. On board, astronauts grow plants, study bone loss, test materials, 3D print tools, and learn how the human body reacts to long-term microgravity. Data we need for Mars missions, but the ISS is aging. It's expected to be retired around 2030 or even sooner. And that means the next era of space stations is already being built. And they look nothing like what we have now. Axiom Space is building the first true commercial space station. Their plan begins by attaching new modules directly to the ISS, including the largest window ever placed in space. When the ISS is retired, Axiom will detach its modules, add more, and form a completely independent station. It's designed for research, manufacturing, and yes, tourism. Think of it as the first luxury orbital outpost. Two other stations, Starlab, Voyager, Airbus, and ESA, and Orbital Reef, Blue Origin, and Sierra Space, are being built with one goal: turn low Earth orbit into an industrial economy. Microgravity is ideal for making things like fiber optics stronger than any made on Earth, new pharmaceuticals, and perfectly formed crystals. For the first time, space stations won't just be science labs. They'll be factories. Then there's Gateway, part of NASA's Artemis program, a small space station that will hopefully orbit the moon. This is humanity's first ever off-Earth outpost. Gateway will serve as a staging point for moon landings, a science hub for studying deep space radiation, and a testing ground for the systems we'll eventually use on Mars. It's basically the ISS, but in lunar orbit, and it will redefine what a space station even is. This is where things get fun, because future space stations will solve the biggest problem astronauts face today. Microgravity slowly destroys the human body. Muscle loss, bone loss, fluid shifts, all of it makes long-term living nearly impossible. So the next generation of stations will look entirely different. To fix microgravity, future stations may spin to generate centrifugal force. Designs include rotating wheels like in 2001, a space odyssey, giant O'Neill cylinders that rotate in opposite directions, huge orbital rings capable of hosting thousands of people with artificial gravity. Humans could live in space permanently, with beds, kitchens, running tracks, and actual walking instead of floating. These are not fictional. Multiple companies are already studying the engineering. As launch costs fall and reusable rockets become more common, the economics change dramatically. Instead of assembling stations from pieces launched from Earth, future stations might be built from materials mined in space, metal from asteroids, water from the moon, and solar energy collected directly in orbit. These structures could be enormous. Tens of thousands of residents, parks, farmlands, lakes, weather-controlled environments, permanent schools, and hospitals, essentially a floating city in space. Eventually, stations won't just orbit Earth or the Moon. We may see transit stations at Lagrange points, acting like interplanetary airports, Mars orbit stations used as staging hubs, interstellar research stations in deep space. These would support crews traveling far beyond our solar system. Every major chapter in human history began with a frontier: the ocean, the poles, the skies. Space stations are our first footholds into the biggest frontier of all. The ISS was humanity's first home in space. Axiom and Gateway will be the next. But the stations of the future, rotating habitats and orbital cities, could be our next homes, our next economies, and maybe even our next civilizations. And it all starts right now. What do you think the future of space stations will look like? Futuristic cities, spinning rings, lunar outposts? Let me know in the comments, and if you want more space deep dives, don't forget to like and subscribe.